Medieval times were a difficult period to navigate, with wars constantly on the horizon. You also had to keep your wits about you in terms of people above you in life, such as your nobles, your lords, and finally the monarchy, who would all demand something from you, either taxes or your body. But what did people do to make sure they were aligned with the correct person in power? What if it all turned for the worst and you ended up with an insane, violent and vengeful ruler in charge? Welcome back to Absurd History, for all things medieval and historical that will make you think twice about those boring history books. Today we are looking into 3 of the worst men in history who ruled during medieval times, plus how you could survive their reign. Our first contestant for worst ruler is Genghis Khan. He was the Mongol warrior ruler who is widely considered one of the most successful military leaders in history. However, his tactics and actions were often brutal and ruthless, resulting in a reputation for being a horrific ruler. Here are some reasons why. Firstly, Genghis Khan was responsible for the deaths of millions of people during his conquests. He used brutal tactics to subjugate his enemies, such as wiping out entire cities and populations, and using terror to intimidate his opponents. It is estimated that his campaigns may have caused the deaths of up to 40 million people. Secondly, Genghis Khan is known for his cruelty towards those who opposed him. For example, he ordered the execution of all male members of the Khwarezmian royal family, a rival empire he had defeated, and is said to have had their heads placed on spikes as a warning to others who would oppose him. The third reason is Genghis Khan's empire was built on a system of forced labor and exploitation. He and his armies would often take slaves from conquered territories and use them for labor or sell them for profit. This included women and children, who were often subjected to sexual violence and abuse. Finally, Genghis Khan's legacy includes a devastating impact on the environment. His campaigns involved the destruction of vast areas of forests and grasslands, leading to soil erosion and ecological damage that is still felt in parts of Central Asia today. In conclusion, while Genghis Khan was undoubtedly a successful military leader and empire builder, his tactics were often brutal and ruthless, resulting in a reputation for being a horrific ruler. He was responsible for the deaths of millions of people, showed cruelty towards those who opposed him, built his empire on forced labor and exploitation, and left a legacy of environmental destruction. Next up is a man named Ivan the Terrible in fact. Ivan was the Grand Prince of Moscow from 1533 till 1584 and the first Tsar of Russia from 1547. While he was instrumental in centralizing the Russian state and expanding its territory, he was also notorious for his cruel and erratic behavior. Ivan the Terrible's reign was marked by extreme violence and political repression, with thousands of people being executed, exiled, or imprisoned. His reign was characterized by brutal purges of the nobility and political opponents, with many being tortured and killed. He also initiated a policy, which involved the creation of a secret police force that was used to root out and punish his enemies. This policy led to widespread terror and insecurity, with many people being falsely accused and punished. Ivan's behavior towards his family was particularly disturbing. He was known to have physically abused his pregnant wife, which resulted in the miscarriage of their child. He also had a strained relationship with his eldest son, Ivan Ivanovich, whom he saw as a potential rival. This strained relationship eventually led to Ivan the Terrible killing his own son. He struck his son in the head with a pointed staff. This led to his death, and one of the only things Ivan deeply regretted. In addition to his cruel policies, Ivan the Terrible was also known for his erratic behavior and violent outbursts. He was prone to fits of rage, during which he would beat and even kill his own courtiers and family members. Overall, Ivan the Terrible's reign was marked by extreme violence, repression, and political instability. While he was an important figure in the consolidation of the Russian state, his legacy is largely remembered for his cruelty and erratic behavior towards his subjects and his own family members. Talk about Father of the Year. He truly lived up to the nickname of Terrible. The final man in contention for worst ruler in medieval times goes to John. King John of England, who reigned from 1199 to 1216, is widely regarded as a disastrous king and a cruel and power-hungry ruler. John's reign was marked by military failures, financial crises, and disputes with the church and the barons that ultimately led to the signing of the Magna Carta, a document that curtailed royal power and established the principle of the rule of law. John was known for his ruthless and violent tendencies, which earned him the nickname, Bad King John. He was quick to anger and often acted impulsively, without considering the consequences of his actions. He was accused of numerous atrocities, including ordering the execution of his own nephew and starving prisoners to death in his dungeons. John's personal life was also marked by scandal and controversy. He was known for his infidelity and was accused of having numerous affairs, including with the wives of his own barons. He was also said to have had a volatile temper and a penchant for cruelty, which alienated many of his supporters and made him deeply unpopular with the general public. One of the key reasons for John's poor reputation was his inability to maintain control over his territories in France. He lost a significant amount of land to the French king, and his attempts to regain it were largely unsuccessful. His military campaigns were marked by poor planning, lack of coordination, and low morale among his troops. These failures led to widespread discontent among the barons and contributed to the outbreak of civil war in England. In summary, King John of England was widely regarded as a terrible ruler and a cruel and power-hungry person. With constant military failures and lack of ability to maintain control, his reputation as a bad king persisted long after his death, and he is still remembered today as one of the most notorious rulers in English history. Okay, so now we have been introduced to the worst rulers. How did you navigate life under their rule? Apart from the kings of the time, there were also others who would have held power above you, some of whom were notorious for their cruelty and incompetence. While it was challenging to predict whether a ruler would be successful or terrible, there were some ways that people could live. First up would be getting in with the church. Not like you had much option back then, but the church played a crucial role in the medieval period. It often acted as a mediator between the rulers and the people. The church could use its moral authority to promote peace and stability and to pressure the ruler to act in the best interests of the people. The next was to approach or support your local rulers who were known for their fairness, wisdom, and benevolence. Such rulers in the community were often seen as moral leaders and were respected by their subjects, and their success was a testament to their abilities. As times were fickle, you would have to adapt and change as each new ruler took charge, a fine balancing act as you would not want to look two-faced. Or you could simply suck up to the aristocracy. These guys had just enough wealth and power that they could talk with the king. As the nobility were often influential and wealthy, they could use their resources and connections to push back against the ruler's excesses. Some monarchs recognized this and tried to company-opt the nobility by granting them privileges and positions of power in exchange for their support. In addition to these strategies, people could also try to protect themselves by being informed and politically engaged. By keeping abreast of current events and participating in local politics, people could better understand the actions of their rulers and respond accordingly. This could involve petitioning the ruler for redress of grievances, organizing protests or rebellions, or even fleeing to another region if the situation became dire. Overall, avoiding a terrible ruler in medieval times was challenging, but it was not impossible. By supporting good rulers, promoting institutions that could check the power of the ruler, and being politically engaged, people could protect themselves from the worst excesses of their rulers.